Craig Berube has called out the NHL, and following some breaking news we had to go over today regarding a shocking decision surrounding the Leafs. Berube has not only called out the NHL, but has done so in a very interesting fashion. I'll break down exactly what he said, as well as break down multiple other huge updates ahead of the game on Wednesday that's going to decide everything for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. A ton to go over today. The situation surrounding the Florida Panthers being dirty. Everything keeps getting crazier. We're going to break it all down. But before we get into it, folks, if you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable on the channel. So thank you guys for that. Even though the Leafs have lost the past couple games, you're on the road to 18,000 subscribers and our big goal of 20,000. So if you want to help us towards that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And your guys' support, you guys have been beast. So thank you guys very much for that. There's a ton to go over today, and there's a lot to discuss here. The NHL has screwed the Leafs once again. There's a bunch of different things going on. An absolute disaster class from the Department of Player Safety. And let's just start with that, and then we're going to dive into some comments by Craig Berube and also, some actual more updates surrounding the Leaf game on Wednesday. And you can see this here. I want to start with this. And this was earlier this afternoon. Craig Berube came out and called out the NHL a little bit. He was asked about the Max Domi hit on Sasha Barkov last night. To me, the Kulikov hit on Marner was 10 times worse, which 100%. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't even know why there was a conversation. Like, obviously, the Max Domi hit, was it a great hit? No. Should that really be happening? I mean, probably not. But if you're the Florida Panthers, like, I'm not going to say you're asking for it, but you're kind of asking for it with the way that they've been hitting, the way they've been throwing things around. It was eventually the Leafs were going to come out and do something about it. And this was Pierre LeBrun following the, of course, hit last night. He said the NHL and the player safety department are likely to look at the Max Domi hit on Barkov late in the game. But late in the game, when it looks like a message-sending play, it draws more attention. Plays like that get outlined in the CBA as a point of focus. But, elbows to the head don't get outlined as a point of focus, supposedly here. Darius, I want to get your thoughts on this because he called out the NHL, and guess what happened? Max Domi got a $5,000 fine this afternoon in a interesting turn of events there.
Yeah, we'll start with the Max Domi hit. Is it a good hit? It's not a good hit. It's simply not a good hit, and I'm not going to, defend him in any way. It's a bad hit late in the game, and obviously the NHL is going to take a look at stuff like that. I wouldn't expect anything different in terms of that. But the fact that nothing else was, first of all, called, and listen, like, the power play is not going either. Like, it doesn't matter if it was called. It's just the fact of the matter is that it is happening, and the time when it's going to become too much or over the line is when somebody gets hurt and is out for the rest of the series, right? That we all know that's how the NHL operates, and it's wrong, right? But to go back to Max Domi, obviously the NHL is taking a look at that because it's a message sending play, because it's a long series and all of that. A couple of years ago, remember Tampa Bay was pulling guys out of the pile, mugging them, jumping on top of them, all of that stuff. I didn't see any fines back then either. Obviously, there's elbows flying around from Kulikov last night. There's no fine. It's ridiculous. There is a double standard here for sure. MLSE, I'm sure, is going to pay off this fine and be happy doing it because, that's just so ridiculous that Max Domi got a fine here and everything else was fine. So absolutely ridiculous. I'm not defending the hit. It's a bad hit. It's a dangerous hit, 100%. Should he have been suspended? Absolutely not, because of the precedent that has been set in this series. But the fact that he was fine, I think, is an absolute joke. And the NHL's got to look at some other stuff in this series because there is a lot to pick from. And we also have an update on Evan Rodriguez as well, and he's going to be reevaluated today at the time we're recording this. So there isn't too much in terms of is he going to miss the next game or anything like that. But at the same time, maybe a dangerous hit, but it's not a headshot. OEL, caught him. It was interference, all of that, and, an unfortunate play. But there was a lot of other stuff, not just in this game, but all series that's going, they're not looking at it. The Leafs are down a goaltender as well. So there's a lot going around here, and somehow Max Domi is the guy who gets the fine.
Yeah, you think about, there was the elbow to the head of John Tavares in the game before last game 3. And then, of course, you have the elbow yesterday. You have the opening of the Florida Panthers door, whatever you want to call it, on the boards. You have a bunch of different things here. And what ends up happening, because, of course, I'm not necessarily defending hits like Max Domi's. I don't think that should be something that actively is done. But when you're consistently, and Berube, basically said the same thing. He's defending Max Domi 100%. When you're consistently getting hit the way that the Leafs are getting hit, they're getting headhunted, all these different things, something is bound to happen. And for the Leafs to be the only team that receives any sort of consequence from it, it is, really, really bad. No penalty called on the Sam Bennett hit to Anthony Stolarz' head, which completely has altered the way this series has been played. You could argue the Leafs maybe would be up 3-1, like probably not given the way things have happened, but maybe they would have won game 3 without with Anthony Stolarz in net. it has gotten, pretty bad here in the league. I mean, we all knew the player umpire safety is a joke, and the league has kind of turned into a bit of a joke for this series in particular. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on that, because it's going to get interesting. I don't expect it to stop, because we know that Matthew Tkachuk in yesterday's game, towards the end of it, basically indicated he was going to try, or at least try to fight, we'll say. William Nylander pointed to his elbow, whatever it was, and Willie said he'll probably do whatever he can to get a player off their game. But yeah, next game's going to be a fun one. So pretty good response there from William Nylander. I'm not too worried about, Matthew Tkachuk actually doing anything. Either, fighting wise or with the way he's been playing with the puck, although he had a very nice pass yesterday. I'll give him credit for that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And you also have Austin Matthews saying we knew it wasn't going to be easy. We're playing the defending Cup champs, which is true. Like, regarding the actual series, we'll dive into some updates here. The Leafs are in an okay spot. Home ice advantage has, ruled the series thus far. Obviously, both teams are undefeated at home and haven't won a game on the road. Things are going to get very interesting. But you have guys like Paul Maurice coming out. I think the league looks at these things very closely, especially at this point of the game. And then you think about the hits that have happened to the Leafs, and then Max Domi getting suspended. Seems like the NHL is trying to actively screw the Leafs here with the way that they're calling these things, because this also sets a precedent now for, if you're the Panthers, hey, let's just keep doing what we're doing. They're the only ones getting, and this is obviously only a suspension, but this could be the tip, not even the tip of the iceberg for this. If this happens again now, the Leafs, whether it's Max Domi or another team, the Leafs have to be extra careful, because they got the fine, which, if you want to consider that, let off a little bit easy.
Yeah, they have to play above it. And I thought that they did a good job doing that in the first two games, and obviously kind of got away from that. And they didn't play well in game four. They deserved to lose that game, although it was close. They were still in it. And sometimes teams win games that you deserve to lose. So they were still definitely in it. But let's not pretend like all of this isn't happening, or it's just something that Leaf fans are making up. A lot of other teams go through this as well in the last couple playoffs, and even this year's playoffs too. So, there is invested interest with the Florida Panthers from the league. Gregory Campbell, I mentioned in a video before, Gregory Campbell, his dad works for the NHL. Obviously, you can go back 15 years to the whole thing with the Boston Bruins. There was a leaked transcript as well in terms of, them literally favoriting the Boston Bruins 15 years ago when they won that Stanley Cup, and a couple of years after that as well. And obviously there is that favoritism still with the Florida Panthers now because of all of that. And obviously George Peros, who's the head of Department of Player Safety, again, like I mentioned, got knocked out by Colton Orr when he was a Toronto Maple Leaf. He was a Florida Panther for a long time. He has invested interest with the Florida Panthers. So they let this stuff happen, right? The refs can't call everything on the ice, and the Department of Player Safety is not going to do anything about it. So the Leafs have to play above it. They have to take advantage of the power plays that they are given. They have to play well the rest of the game so they can kind of cancel this stuff out. But let's not pretend as fans of the game like this isn't happening. We've seen it the last 3 years. We're not complaining. I think that the Leafs didn't play well still, and they're not capitalizing on their power plays. They have to do that, and then they'll win the series. They might lose this series, but I've seen a lot of pessimism, even from Leaf fans as well. The Leafs haven't lost this series yet. Still a best of three going back to Toronto. And I also think one of the biggest things besides the physicality in this series that I've seen that has dictated games has been last change, home ice. So we're going back to Toronto, see what the Leafs can do in game 5, and then going back to Florida. It's going to be tough, even if you're up in the series, if you're the Leafs 3-2 with that last change. But this is why you went out and won the Atlantic Division. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens the rest of the way, but don't expect any help from the officials, as you shouldn't anyway, and don't expect any help from the Department of Player Safety or anything like that, because the Florida Panthers can do whatever they want and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, Sam Bennett, some other comments is going to, you can see this here, there's going to be outside noise. Not the first time I've dealt with it, probably won't be the last. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They're trying to get in the Leafs' head. I mean, it ends up being William Nylander. It's 2-2. It's going to be a long series. That's where my mind's at. Got to come out and win the game. And this is a time where Craig Berube, it's a benefit of him being the coach instead of Sheldon Keefe, is that he's remaining, calm. Everyone, I don't think, feels the pressure as much, and they should, because yesterday's game was pretty bad. But I think they'll be good. A couple other notes here before we wrap up. Some comments from the coach himself. We don't need to take those stick penalties, the hooking and the interference. We'll be smarter than that. In the end, I really liked our physicality and compete out there. The guys played hard. It is a tough series. They are a very good team. We know that. It is a battle. And for sure, we'll talk about lineup changes. We'll look at different options. We'll have a video on that coming soon, probably tomorrow, because things are going to pick up. But let us know down below what your thoughts are. Do you think the NHL is screwing the Leafs? Again, this was only a fine, but the next step would be a suspension, and the Panthers have gotten absolutely nothing. So let us know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.